About presentation. I think it's very important in anything you do in visual arts to learn how to make it work and make a good presentation. You'll be doing it in every class you take, I promise. So let's talk about the right way to make this presentation work. This is a drawing a friend of mine did, Connie Pearlstein, and she gave me permission to use this, and I thought I'd bring it up. Now this was just a raw drawing that she sent to me. It's obviously a contour drawing. Um, Now, let me talk to you a little bit about how you should present this drawing, or how I should, or whoever was submitting it, okay? Um, and there are a couple of things. First of all, the color isn't quite nice. She had an off-color paper. Maybe the photograph was wrong. Who knows? But how are we going to get that? Well, I'm going to go into Photoshop and I'm going to play around a little bit with something we can do about adjusting that. First thing I'm going to do is go into hue and saturation if you're working with me in Photoshop. And I can get rid of that brown color right off by doing something like that. Then I'm going to go back in, and I'm doing this under image adjustments. If you play around in Photoshop, you've certainly got that. And I'm going to work a little bit in exposure when I do that. And whoop, that's way too exposed. I don't think I want to use exposure. Um, Let me try adjustments one more time, and I think levels is what I'm looking for. And in doing that, I ought to be able to get some kind of a level that works so that I get the right amount of darks. That seems to be a little cleaner, doesn't it? Like to get the right darks in there. Maybe this is going to do that. I'm getting clearer lines all the time. Going to clean it up a little bit this way, maybe. Don't want to lose everything. I do want those lines to look good, though. Okay. I think we'll go with that. I think that's a nice drawing. That certainly shows me the line clearly. It shows me the contrast clearly. Everything I need to know about that. Now, how am I going to present this? Well, as a drawing, I think the first thing I would want to do if I were putting this in some kind of a presentation or just submitting it, first thing I do is go in and give myself a little border around that. That defines the space of the drawing itself, and that's what we call formatting in a sense, all right? And I'm making that a very thin line, and that just sort of frames up what it is I'm looking at. That describes or defines the space that I'm really starting to look at. Then I think what I do is go back into Photoshop, and this time I'm going into canvas size. And in canvas size, I'm going to try to increase the canvas all the way around just a little bit. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to bump it up here maybe by, I'm going to bump it up by, let's just make that an 8.5 up there, okay? And I'm centering it by choosing that, and then I'm going to make this right here um, an 11, all right? And that should give me a little bit more, see, sure enough. Now you don't have to make it a background like that. That was not my original intention. And if I wanted to fix that, I could go back and redoing it. But you see what's happening now. The red obviously is too bright, and it's pushing that way off. So probably what I ought to do is go into that quickly, make sure that that background is white and not red, and then maybe step back in history. This is more than you should have to do, so kind of ignore that for a while. Going back to that. Now I'm going to redo that background. I'm going back just for those of you who might not have gotten it. Going into canvas size, and I'm going to increase this to 8.5 is what I think I did. And then I'm going to increase this to 11. And that's going to make my canvas a little bit larger. It also did something to my formats, and that's not really what I wanted to do, but I can go back in and reformat that by taking this in here like that and then giving me that, okay? Now, what that does for me is it gives me a little bit of a frame. Sorry, brought my mouse. Gives me a little bit of a frame, and that little bit of a frame will in turn give me the option to do a few things that will let me title this. That's always important. It'll be important to you when you start putting this in a portfolio, and it will be important for you when you want to find yours, or your instructor or anybody kind of wants to find theirs, among other things. So I've got myself a little bit of a frame there. I've got myself a format, and I'm going to go and put now a title down here. And for the titles, as soon as it lets me bring that up, for the titles, what I'd like to suggest, and I'm going to have to go back over here and make my letters black. I'd like to suggest that first of all you put your name, and the title doesn't have to be a big thing. I mean, it can be a very small thing, like assignment 1 if you want, or put your name though first of all, and then put whatever it is, and it could be contour drawing, which would help you in your portfolio, and then go ahead and put the date down. I'm doing an abbreviation for the date. You could put something else in there. And then you're going to move this over here. Now that's going to do a couple of things. It's going to free up your format space so that you don't have to go in there and write your name in there, which sort of then becomes part of your drawing. And it's also going to be able help you find a way that you can classify or keep track of these, and your instructor as well. So this becomes a fairly important now way to submit your drawings as you do this. Okay? The other thing I'd like for you to do is make sure that these are web ready. And the way you're going to do that is when you open these up in Photoshop or whatever you're doing, go into image size and make sure that the resolution is 72 pixels per inch, and make sure that you are complying somehow with what they ask you to do here on the width and the height. Now, for the most part, it's a 6x8 that we're talking about in what we're doing. This was a letterhead piece of paper that was scanned in, so I didn't bother to change that when I did it. But for web ready, you should have either 6 or 8 here, and whatever the other one would be here, depending upon if you had a portrait or a landscape format. And your resolution should be 72. Okay, that will pass the muster, and that will make everybody a lot more appreciative. That's the way you want to put your present your web ready documents. Okay, so let's start working in that direction too. Thanks very much.